members come that are going to testify on some of the legislation they might be working on this upcoming session, and we're glad to have them. Glad you made it in, Ashley. I knew you were iffy on the weather there, so. All right, we will go ahead, and since we're already still officially in a meeting, we'll just go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and start. Ashley, why don't you come on up, Representative Tackett Lafferty, if that's okay. And I know you have a little video that you want to play. You tell us whenever to hit go on that. And then I think you have a few members out there that might be wanting to testify by Zoom there.
Well, thank you for the assistance here, and thank you for the accommodation.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, just for the record there, if you would.
My name is Ashley Tackett Lafferty, and I am the state representative for the 95th House District. Okay, thank you. Yes, it is. Is that better? Okay, great. Once again, I'm Ashley Tackett Lafferty, and I'm the state representative for the 95th House District. I represent all of Floyd County and part of Pike County. I appreciate the accommodation today by the chairs allowing me to show a short clip of our last committee meeting where we presented on this bill, because my folks from Eastern Kentucky had a hard time getting here today and we were unable to connect some by Zoom. So I will play you to begin. I'll play you a brief video of a few clips from our last committee meeting so you can kind of get an idea as to why we're bringing this legislation forward.
Members, it might be a little small, but I think we can hear it and catch the gist out of it.
So little did the deputies didn't know that at the time, but he had about 45 minutes to prepare for them, and he did. At about 5 o'clock that evening, 4 deputy sheriffs responded to the house to serve the emergency protection order. The first 3 deputies was in line and had already exited their car and had walked up to the porch of the house when Darren Lawson, the 4th deputy, was in line with them too, but he was the last to get out of his car. Darren, being the last, sees movement through the house window, and he hollers to tell the other deputies that there's a movement in the window, guys, be careful. Seconds later, gunfire just erupts. The first officer's killed. The second and third officer falls one way, one falls the other. Darren is getting out of his vehicle, exits 1 foot on the ground, gun blast goes off, Darren's leg's taken out from under him. It ricochets off the highway, under the door, comes upward in Darren Lawson's legs. Darren's able to lay on the ground and crawl to the back of his car, where he himself applies 2 tourniquets to his leg, saved his life. He sat at the back of the car while gunfire is just going crazy. Darren's able to eventually see 2 more deputies. One of them had just left the porch, been shot at, and they're trying to get Darren's attention to come to him. Darren's able to crawl probably 50 feet to one of the deputies, who was able to drag him by his vest to safety. Darren was able to talk on his radio while he was at the back of his car, and he put the call out for help. Other agencies heard that on the radio, and call went out. More units responded. Of those units, some were police. One of them happened to be emergency management director. The little town that it happened in, it was right off the main drag in the state highway, and a little city street veers off to the right. It's a one-way street. The guy's house he was in was at that dead end of that little road. He could see every car coming and going, even on the main highway. Joey happens to take far away from it, not in the scene. He's going to direct traffic, so no cars drive in that scene. When Joey gets shot 300 yards away, shot in the eye. Hours goes by. At the end of the day, 6 officers were shot. 1 canine dog, total 7. 3 officers and a canine dog was killed. That was a long night. Over 100 officers ended up responding. But at the end of the day, 4 were killed. 2 were crippled for life to be.
I am Ashley Tackett Lafferty, and I represent the 95th District, which includes all of Floyd County and part of Pike County. I want to begin today with a heartfelt thank you to my co-chairs for graciously giving me this opportunity to bring to you today the faces and the stories of those first responders in my district who have been catastrophically injured in the line of duty and then fallen through the cracks of our hazardous duty coverage. Darren Lawson is a young police officer with a wife and 2 small kids at home. He was attempting to begin his career just a few years ago at our local sheriff's department when he was shot in the line of duty and lost his leg to amputation. Darren, unfortunately, had not spent 5 years with the sheriff's department, so unfortunately he is not going to receive his retirement benefits, and he is also not entitled to hazardous duty benefits. Director Reynolds worked his entire life in fire service and decided to close out his career in emergency management. He was shot in the head and as a result lost his eye and his vision. This was all in the line of duty. Unfortunately, he was not with his department long enough to receive retirement benefits, and he also is not entitled to hazardous duty enhancements.
I'm an old-time firefighter, and we was taught in our early days that we just tough it out. We don't ask for help. In this day and time, we got to ask for help.
Thank you for allowing me to play that clip in light of the inclement weather and my officers and first responders being unable to attend today. But today I'd just like to talk now briefly about a bill that I would like to see move forward, which will help to protect those officers, such as those in my district, who have been catastrophically injured during the line of duty, but have sort of fallen through the cracks of our hazardous duty coverage here in Kentucky. Generally, local government employers pay into the retirement system, and hazardous duty benefits are an optional enhancement. Now, a lot of employers do choose to pay for the enhancement benefits of hazardous duty. And with those, this bill would not affect that type of coverage. It still encourages our local governments to invest in full hazardous duty benefits, which are beneficial to our officers. However, the bill that I'm proposing does propose to amend the retirement law to provide that CERS and KERS non-hazardous members would provide minimum line of duty hazardous duty benefits for those who are working in positions that could be certified as hazardous positions if they are injured in the line of duty and ultimately, such as my officers, unable to return to that sort of that line of work. Now, in recent years, fortunately, our General Assembly has moved in the right direction, and we do provide these types of minimal benefits to those who are either killed in the line of duty or those who are permanently disabled from returning to work at all. But this bill is designed to protect those, as you saw in the video, the officers in the video who have put their lives on the line, and not only their lives, but their bodies and their safety and their families, who have they have ultimately risked their futures, and they are not entitled to even the minimum hazardous duty benefits at this time. As you saw, Deputy Lawson has been an amputee. He ended up losing his leg. He was in the hospital for over 30 days following the accident. Had multiple surgeries, I think over 15. His leg was amputated below the knee. He's a young father with 2 young kids at home, and now he is not entitled to receive benefits such as these because he would be considered upon the completion of his recovery to be able to return to work. So the minimum benefit that this bill proposes is that the benefits paid would be 25% of pay to the disabled officer plus 10% for any dependent child at home, as well as minimal health benefits. Now, while that would provide health benefits to the officers injured, I think it would afford the opportunity to for the officer to purchase health insurance coverage for his dependents at home. I have been working with the retirement system and other stakeholders to ensure that the language of this bill is very tight and that it does work to accomplish the goals that we are setting forward to accomplish. And I have requested an actuarial analysis where it has been estimated that the increase to the CERS non-hazardous fund would be $2.9 million, and that would be funded over time by an increase in CERS non-hazardous employer rates of 0.07%. And this includes for the coverage and also the health benefits provided. The bill also now covers KERS, which would cause an increase to the CERS non-hazardous fund of $0.542 million, which would require an increase over time for CERS non-hazardous employer rates of a 0.01%. To pay for the pension coverage and the health benefits. In the long run, these costs are nominal to protect those whose services are priceless to our community. And I'm here today to take any questions and try to address any concerns that you may have with regard to the coverage provided through this bill.
Thank you, Representative Tackett Lafferty. I think we're getting a list here. Chairman Higdon has a question.
Thank you, and I've asked you all these questions before, and you have figured out the way to make sure that there's no unfunded liability by passing that cost along. Do we know how many folks are like your constituents that are no longer serving, that this will go back and pick up, and how far back do we go?
Thank you for asking that. Actually, this bill would also add some non-codified language to add a window to cover recent situations like those which occurred in my county. And of course, my officers would also be covered in this legislation. I believe it's back to a 5-year window. Those numbers, I believe, were included in the analysis numbers as to what it would take to cover those benefits as well. So that has been included in the coverage. But I do have some updated numbers that across the Commonwealth, that this coverage would potentially extend to EMS members, 710 EMS members, 406 police, 117 fire, 1,517 jail workers, 583 in the Sheriff's Department, which is only a total across the Commonwealth that could be considered certified hazardous duty that do not have non-hazardous coverage available, which is only a total of 3,333 people across the Commonwealth. Now, those people would not be entitled to benefits unless they were injured in the line of duty and also adjudged to be disabled from returning to their work in that hazardous type of position. So really, it's really a fraction of what could be extended across Kentucky at this time.
But do you have an estimate of how many folks are out there that are not active employees? You've got the active employee numbers. Those that have been injured in the past that might qualify for this. I know it's a hard number to come up with, but I figured maybe they had an estimate.
And I'm not sure that I've received that at this time, but Senator, I will follow up on
that's
that and forward that to you.
I think we'll have plenty of time to talk coming here January 6th.
Thank you.
One other thing, I really think it's, and I know there's a lot of reasons, and I probably shouldn't say this, but we should have never allowed hazardous duty employees to be covered under a pension that it wasn't designed for hazardous duty. We should have made sure that every hazardous duty position was in either KERS has or CERS has. But that train's left the station.
Well, and like I've said in the prior committee meeting, I would love to see all of our public safety officers and first responders be entitled to full hazardous duty benefits. But in the meantime, I think legislation such as this helps to advance protections for those who are actually in need of the benefits, who are injured and in need of those hazardous duty benefits. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We do have a Senator Nemus question.
Yes, just for clarification, this is insurance for benefits paid out of the pension system now, and you're just adding non-hazardous when they do a hazardous job.
If their job can be certified as hazardous duty, those would be the only ones. Like, for instance, in some of my work, I've discovered that, some forensics workers, if they're out and they're exposed to dangerous chemicals or sharp blades, things of that nature, their position could be considered certified hazardous. Now, those who are working desk jobs, things of that nature, probably aren't going to qualify unless that position is considered as certified hazardous.
Okay, you just made it a little cloudier for me instead of
sorry.
clarifying. If there is someone, let's not say who or what or anything, that is now not certified as hazardous, you're saying that if they are put in a hazardous situation and get harmed, then they would qualify as a hazardous duty at that time. Is that not what you're saying in the
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But they would only be entitled to the minimal benefits directed through the bill. So as for instance,
well, you're going past what I
Okay,
want. I want
yes,
to know.
okay.
If I have a hazardous duty, I'm covered.
yes,
If I have a non-hazardous, but then I go into a hazardous situation,
Yes.
and thank you, John, for shaking your head
Yes.
because you're answering it,
Yes.
then I would be considered at that time, not any other time, but at that time as a hazardous duty and would get paid as if I were a police officer.
Yes.
Or whatever. Okay, that clarifies that. And I would ask, and you don't have to answer this because you don't know, I just want to make the statement. Why is the insurance for hazardous duty and this and that in the pensions? It's a good thing to have and it should be covered, but why are the pensions paying it out? To make sure the wife and that is entitled to the pensions when the spouse when their spouse gets hurt or something. I understand that, but this is an insurance for disability and this and that is in a pension system.
I'd be happy to look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have.
Thank you for that question.
Senator, did you need to clarify anything? Or
I think what he's asking, if any state employee was injured, but the only ones that be covered under this are those who have been certified as in a hazardous position and are paying for that coverage, correct?
So even non-hazardous, even those whose employers have not paid into hazardous duty benefits could receive the minimal hazardous duty benefits if their position could be certified as a hazardous duty position had their employer had hazardous duty coverage. Does that make sense?
Who's paying this? What employees is everybody in KERS non-haz paying the extra 0.01%, or just those who are designated to be in a hazardous position?
No, I'm pretty sure through the analysis that it is everyone. For instance, if your sheriff's department has not paid into hazardous duty but pays into non-hazardous, that will be the percentage for those who to fund this coverage.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Well, I'll read the bill and better understand it, but you've explained it. Thank you.
Representative Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate Representative Ashley Tackett. I appreciate you bringing this forward. I was actually in Floyd County after the 22 floods, and I know that happened after this happened, and I still remember talking to the people in the community down there and just how tragic a situation this is. I do have a quick question and then some comments. Were these deputy sheriffs or were these people in the city police department, or a combination?
a combination.
Combination.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. And Senator Higdon made a point about why they're not in hazardous duty, and I think this is. I'm going to share some data here. He's probably going to explain why they're not in hazardous duty, and that's the contribution rates that the CERS employers have to make. It's significantly higher for a hazardous duty employee, and in 24, for a non-hazardous position, they were paying 18.62% of pay. For somebody in hazardous, they were paying 35.73% of pay. In 25, that was 17.43% of pay for non-hazardous and 34.72% for hazardous. Basically, it's double.
Yeah.
And it's the city and the county that choose which retirement system they're going to put these employees in. Doesn't matter what they're certified as hazardous or not hazardous. It's that local member of CERS makes the determination. And I know it's a budget decision. I know they're trying to save money, but then we get in this situation here. So I just wanted to point that out, that the local employers make the decision about whether they're going to put these employees in hazardous or not hazardous. It's not about what their job's classification. It's a determination by that local entity. And unfortunately, it's driven by economics. They don't have the money to pay for this. But I just wanted to point that out. That's why we're in this situation.
Right.
And it's a very sad situation. And hopefully we can come up with a remedy for it now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. May I, Chair?
Oh, please.
To respond, I was very surprised to learn about this from my sheriff's department. I was very surprised to learn that police officers, our sheriff's deputies, don't always have hazardous duty coverage because the employer doesn't always elect to pay that coverage. And then I started making phone calls to local sheriff's departments, local city police departments, and I was just really surprised to see that very few facilities and departments in Eastern Kentucky have hazardous duties coverage for our officers. I believe Floyd County Sheriff's Department, our Prestonsburg City Police Department, even our Pike County Sheriff's Department. Those are bigger sheriff's departments that you would think that would be capable, hopefully, of funding. But like you said, really, it's a decision as to we can't pay double for the retirement and still have a sheriff's department. We need to have a sheriff's department. But as I am the mother of a criminal justice major who would like to go into law enforcement, and at this point I was really shocked that officers such as Deputy Lawson, who's lost his leg in a shooting, protecting our community, is not covered under these types of benefits when it's obvious he was exposed to a line of duty injury, which was very hazardous. It was a very hazardous situation. So, but thank you for that comment.
All right. It's funny, on my drive up here Tuesday, we just had in Christian County our fiscal court meeting, and they just approved for Christian County's deputies to go into the hazardous. So I don't know how many years they've been going without it either in my hometown.
Right.
And
Right.
they finally found the money to be able to move them over. So
I was very surprised, and I wish I would have brought those numbers as to how many sheriff's departments and fire departments that aren't able to provide hazardous duty coverage because it's just a financial, like you said, an economic stumbling block.
It is. Now you
And these are definitely the folks who deserve that protection. And this, like I said, this bill's kind of designed to target those who have been injured and require the help of these benefits, while not putting a squeeze on our departments in order to do that. So
Sure. Well, I know you have the two officers out there that are on Zoom calls. We did just hear from them.
Oh, great.
Was there any, I mean, with their
Oh,
testimony
no.
from that video, is there anything else that
No.
they need or anything?
We actually just have the Sheriff's Association online. My officers were unable to attend by Zoom today
I
as well.
understand.
But the Sheriff's Association is online just to show their support for the bill.
Well,
So.
we appreciate y'all's work out there, and y'all stay safe during this Christmas season there. So we appreciate you tuning in. Members, any other questions? If so, all right, Representative Lafferty, thank you so much
you.
for driving in and getting did your kids have school? Probably not today. So they come with you? Oh, you got to get back. Well, we appreciate you being here. All right, we are jumping around on the schedule a little bit because Representative Tipton and Chairman Higdon have to be here anyway. So we're jumping and trying to get some of y'all out of here at a timely matter here. So we'll go ahead and Representative Grossberg, if you want to come up and take the table, and please, you know the routine, introduce yourself for the record there if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Daniel Grossberg, 30th District, Jefferson County. So I come to you all here today with a refresh on a previous bill, which I still do plan to file, but the version which should be in your packets may be the shortest bill of the 2026 legislative session, or here's hoping. It's a single sentence. On page 2, the only added language would be, teachers and employees of the school district may also use accumulated sick leave for the observance of religious holidays not otherwise included in the school calendar, provided the teacher or employee submits a personal statement verifying the observance of the religious holiday and provides sufficient advance notice as determined by the school district. So you all have heard me for the last several years express concern about how we provide a benefit to nearly every government employee, which is to observe their religion. It's codified by the First Amendment. However, because of the unique nature of working in a school, the calendar is more rigid, and the same kind of flexibility of taking off on non-Christian holidays and making up for it by working the Christian holidays does not exist. The previous version of the bill that I had submitted would allow teachers to take off for religious observance and make up those days of work elsewhere on weekends, in summers, working 2 or 3 days after school closes for the session or before it resumes, which are all eligible work days to begin with. But presently, teachers do not get service credit towards retirement. And the problem for teachers who take off for observance and lose their service credit is that they ultimately get to a point at which, when they should be retiring, they have to buy back days of service to be eligible. In your pack, you should also have a letter from Ms. Adele Singer, who would have been here today, but due to the inclement weather and her advanced age was not able to join us. May I read it for everyone, or would you prefer that you all can just...
To speed things, I think we all do have that letter,
Okay.
and I know I read it earlier, and I'm
Gotcha,
looking at
yeah.
our members, and they all have it in front of
Yes.
them reading it.
So
let's-
in brief, she was put in a catch-22 when she began teaching in JCPS in 1990. And the two options for her religious observance were to lie and take a sick day when she wasn't actually sick, or to just take an unpaid day. For several years, she falsely took the sick days with the advice of her principal, but still it's against the system. And ultimately, she chose that she wasn't going to continue doing that because you have to swear and affirm your illness. There's an inconsistency, not just in JCPS, but throughout the state, where in some districts you have principals and administrators who say, go ahead and just take a sick day. I won't ask any questions. And there are other principals and districts writ large that are not as forgiving, and that inevitably means that some teachers don't get to have the religious observance. And this bill should afford them that opportunity. And I was hesitant in previous years to go with this version for two reasons. First, because teachers were accumulating their sick leave to add towards their retirement. That has been greatly reduced, so that's now a moot point. And secondly, teachers would need their aggregated sick leave in order to take off for maternity leave. But thanks to Co-Chair Higdon, we now have maternity leave throughout the state, so there's no longer that competing concern. And I'm grateful for his assistance in this, because this is the version that he has been pushing me for the last 3 years. And here I am now presenting the version that simply allows teachers to use sick leave for religious observance. So I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
It appears we don't have as many questions when it's a one sentence line injected there. So,
all right. Well, let me then just add that the other version had an actuarial analysis of negligible. This one will be whatever the word is for one step further than negligible, because they're not using up any extra days or making up extra days. It's just we're not making them swear an affidavit falsely.
Oh, wait, apparently my co-chair, Senator Higdon.
I just had to ask you the question, does it, and you just mentioned that it does not create an unfunded liability.
That is 100% correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Falls in your 10 commandments of pensions there, so good deal. 10 do's and don'ts there. Well, we appreciate you coming in, and we will see how everything goes there. So
thank you. God willing, fourth time's the charm, and good luck driving home, everyone. 64 is not bad, but I'm worried about some of those side roads. Thank you all.
All right. Chairman Blanton, do you want to come on up and talk about your first one? And then I'm going to add Chairman Tipton in there to join you for your second bill there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for allowing me to present my piece of legislation to you today. My name's John Blanton. I'm the state representative for the 92nd District, and I have two gentlemen here that would be impacted by this particular piece of legislation, and they are employees with the Transportation Cabinet, and I'll let them introduce themselves. I just want them up here. One, they're the reasoning behind my desire in working this piece of legislation, and you may have some questions for them because it would directly impact them. So if you gentlemen, Jeremy, your light is on. If you'll introduce yourself.
Absolutely. My name is Jeremy Sheffel. I work for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet in Bridge Maintenance in District 10. That's Jackson, Kentucky, Breathitt County.
I am Darren Back. I also work in Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, District 10, in the planning section.
Thank you, gentlemen. My bill is a very simple piece of legislation that actually we've did this for other employees back in 2017. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has a long-standing scholarship program for civil engineer students where the students and the cabinet enter into an educational contract while the students are in school. And the educational contract consists of the cabinet providing an annual scholarship to the student, and the student will then agree to work for the cabinet for an equivalent number of years after graduation. The student often works during this time period on summer break and is considered conditional employees while they're doing so of the cabinet during the terms of this contract. Once the student begins full-time employment at the cabinet, they establish membership of the Kentucky Employees Retirement System. And we know we've got 3 different tiers. I'll not bore you with all that, at 3 different starting dates. And typically, the dates are based upon when they enter into the KERS. However, again, in 2017, we passed a law that amended that to allow those who began their employment with the Commonwealth through an education contract, provide the education contract began prior to the December 31st, 2003. This allowed a few KERS members to attain an earlier membership date for purposes of creating retiree health benefits. What this bill would do would allow them to go back to the date they entered into this educational contract and claim that as their starting date for the purposes of the tier that they would be in the retirement system. Now, clearly, at some point, this is going to get to the point where it's going to be mute because all of them coming in is going to be under Tier 3 unless we come up with a Tier 4 somewhere down the road, right? So that's all it does. It allows them to back up to their contractual date with the Transportation Cabinet and claim that as their starting point. This is not something new. We've did this before. There's 100 or a few less people that this would be applicable to, and it just impacts their membership date for their tier purposes in the retirement system.
We got Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Thank you. With the timing of that, I think you mentioned health, but would it also start their benefit payout as well back to that point?
It does not. It's just what they're qualified for.
So they'd be qualified for that, but were they paying into the pension that they would then receive from?
You weren't paying in at the time, and it doesn't extend. It gives them the benefits of being in the Tier 1 system. In other words, or Tier 2 system. And I'm talking about insurance and defined benefit versus like now Tier 3 is a hybrid. If they go back into the Tier 2, they would fall into the Tier 2, which is a defined benefit, but it doesn't actually give them extra years towards their retirement.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So, which I'm sure another member will say, is there an actuarial calculation of what sort of additional cost that might be?
Thank you for asking that very good question. And actually, I actually filed this bill to get the conversation going and to attempt to get an AA in this past session. And it has been determined that it is they are unable to determine a cost on it because we don't know how many would be Tier 1, how many would be Tier 2, what their points are. So it was undeterminable the amount of impact it would have.
Senator Nemes.
Yes, thank you, Representative Blanton. So what you're doing is saying that they would go back to when they were in college and working as kind of like a co-op and getting a scholarship to be able to get into the retirement system while they were in college.
That's correct.
Okay. In the future, the ones under this program will be what?
Well, in the future, if they came on, say that January 1, they start a new contract with a freshman or sophomore. I'm not sure when these scholarships began, but they're automatically going to be in the Tier 3 because that's what we're under right now. It's just that what we've did, the General Assembly over the past 2 decades has set up different tier systems. And we've got these.
I understand that. I'm just saying that. Is this setting precedents that if you're under a scholarship or a co-op that you would be able to get into the retirement system at that point?
No, sir. This determines the tier they're in. And I wouldn't even say this is setting a precedence because we have already did this for other members of KERS back in 2017.
That were working co-ops in college?
That were working, yes, educational.
Okay. So this is just adding to their situation.
Yes.
Well, suggestion for the future is to look at the registered apprenticeship with the labor cabinet, education labor cabinet, and set up a registered apprenticeship program where they will actually not be co-oping and getting the scholarship. They'll actually be working for the cabinet, and then they would be set up as an employee under the apprenticeship program.
I like the idea. Thank you, Senator.
Sounds like an amendment forming. Co-Chair Higdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Blanton, I know it was undeterminable, but we can assume that there is some liability there. Can you go back and KPPA go back and look at the 2017 legislation, how many came in and what that has cost us?
Yes, I think we can do that, sir.
Okay, that would give us, undeterminable is what do you do with it? And
Well, it's undeterminable, sir.
I know, but that's what, I understand. So maybe we can determine with history.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
All right. Any other members have any questions for these gentlemen? Sounds like we're all good here. So,
Thank you all.
do they want to stay at the table? Is this next one?
No, it doesn't apply to them.
Doesn't apply
Thank
to
you all,
them.
gentlemen.
Well,
Thank you.
Jeremy and Aaron, we appreciate. Darren, we appreciate y'all being here. Y'all have a Merry Christmas, and we'll bring down Representative Tipton. We expect that y'all going to have an arm wrestle to see who actually carries this bill. Okay. No.
There's no wrestle to it, sir.
Mr. Chair, thank you. They say great minds think alike, but it helps to have the same bill drafter because our bills are identical. So basically, we've already talked about Senate Bill 10 today that impacted the employees in the county employee retirement system. And what this legislation would do would take the implications, the terms of Senate Bill 10, and apply it to our state employees and our KERS non-hazardous, KERS hazardous, and our state police retirees. Again, there would be an increase in, I guess I better put my glasses on for this. I still need them to read. There's going to be some increase in the employee contribution for what is that, post 2003 or 2008, I believe.
Yes.
An additional 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Senator Higgins is going to ask the question. I don't know if we have an updated AA, but I have an AA from the Senate Bill 10 last year that also included the K system. And KPPE is behind me here, and they've told us that there should be no change to that. And I'm just going to read the summary here. It said the actuarial determined contribution for the KERS non-hazardous will increase by approximately $10 million due to this proposed legislation. And additionally, the actuary determined contribution rate increases by 3% of pay for SPRS due to the legislation. There would be some additional employee contributions. I think I saw where in the initial year it would be about $8 million, and then it would go up to $12 million. On that 3% for state police, they would be paying an additional 1%, so it would be 2% additional employer. Did I get that right, Representative
You got it
Blunt?
right. Yes,
okay,
sir.
that's too many numbers here today. Now, to answer your question, Co-Chair Higdon, as long as we make the additional contribution, there will be no increase in the unfunded liability.
That is great news. Now that is for employee 1%, and an employer also would make a contribution.
Yes, on the state police, it would be the employee would pay 1%, the employer 2% of pay, which is a smaller fund. On the KERS non-hazardous, there would be basically an additional contribution we would have to make, $8 to $12 million in that range based on the AA. And I think for KERS hazardous, there would be no additional contribution required at this time because of the funding levels in there right now. And if you recall what this does for somebody, a non-hazardous duty employee, right now, if you work 30 years, it's $10 a month toward your health insurance. And health insurance has gone up a bunch, and this would raise that to however many years of service to $40 per year times years of service, and for hazardous it would be $50 per year times years of service. And this is to make our state employees applicable with what we did for our county employee system. And it would, I think it'd be a great benefit to them because we understand the cost of health insurance. especially for the under 65 employees. That's pretty much the essence of the bill. If anybody has any questions.
Chairman Hickton.
Yeah, I applaud you all for bringing this bill. When I think it was 2008, we passed legislation that did away with saying a retiree received their health insurance paid to a dollar amount, and the dollar amount we set would pretty much pay for a retiree's health insurance. That was a long time ago, and things have changed. So we need to do this for our state employees. And thank you for bringing the bill forward and making sure that it paid for itself.
What we may have to talk to Chair Petrie and Chair McDaniel about that, but I've already been working on them.
Good point. All right. Any other members for these two esteemed chairmen here? So I guess you answered it all well. John, you did well talking on that one there. So
You know, we're only as good as our support group, and I'm trying to be the support. So
there you go. Well, hope you don't have to pull anyone out of ditches on the way home there.
Me
so
too.
Be careful. All right, we are moving along. The only one we have left is our esteemed co-chairman, Senator Higdon. He said if we can pass all these, this is his parting gift for not running again there. So.
You know, in the Senate, Senator Jimmy Higdon, 14th Senate District. In the Senate, we try to limit everyone to 5 bills. I've kind of read into that. Chairman here, I get 5 bills here. I get 5 bills over in transportation, and I get 5 bills for my personal use. So there'd be a lot of bills filed, but. Chairman Tipton, you know what I mean. You, if you're chairman, you got things you got to do. But I have 4 bills there, and I'll run through them very quickly. I'm the only thing between you all and heading home. So the first bill would allow it would report to PPOB on line of duty deaths. Currently, we have an annual reporting by KPPA on line of duty disability payments. This would simply add to that we'd also get a report on line of duty deaths that occurred the previous year. And I think that's information that we need. The other one, you've already heard the bill. I'm going to file the sick leave for religious holidays to allow employee and the teachers, if they want to take a sick day for a religious holiday and use that sick day. Currently, they can't do that. They can only take it if they're sick. So this would allow them to do that. Also make some changes to PPOB. Try to add some new members. We would add the state treasurer. Currently, the state treasurer is not on our board, and I think that would be appropriate. The governor has 2 appointees. He hasn't appointed anybody for several years, so we'll change that to one appointment. And we would add the state government chairman of the state government committee or a designee to be automatically on the PPOB. Right now, they're not automatically, and so we felt that's an important position. The appropriation and revenue chairman is on the committee, but state government chairman is not. So I think the more folks we can get on the PPOB, more people understand pensions. I think we're well served. The more we can educate on pensions. So that bill. The last one is on annual leave. TRS members who entered service prior to July 1, 2008 are allowed up to 60 annual unused annual leave days to be calculated into their final pension calculation. They get paid for those at 100% of what their pay is, and they're included in their retirement calculation. Currently, that's in the calculation. The school district pays them for those days, and like I said, the pension part of it is the state picks up the additional pension that cost. This bill puts in the statute that the state will pay for unused annual leave days prior to August 1, 2026. So anything that employees have accumulated, these are all administrators. These administrators that have anything they've accrued up to August 1st, 2026, the state will pick up the liability for those. After that date, if school districts continue to do annual leave, they will pick up the actuarial liability for those days. Or they could do, in statute now, it allows for school districts to do service credit, where they get credit for those extra days, and as toward their retirement. They can actually, if they have, I think most superintendents work 240-day contracts. If they had 240 days of annual leave, 240 days of sick leave and annual leave, they could take that as service credit and retire a year early. I think that's the way it works. That's pretty much what